Hello, I'm Betty Swann, and welcome to our show, Wisdom in the Night, where you get help for the tough decisions in your life. Tonight I have a great guest. He's a songwriter and a worship leader. Well, hello, Will Retherford.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be a great interview. I think people are going to enjoy hearing about somebody like you that's young and yet doing so much with your life already. You've already had a lot of experience, haven't you, with music and writing. So just so everybody will get to know you, Will, tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I grew up in a Christian home in Tulsa, Oklahoma. At an early age, my parents split up when I was 9. Still have a great relationship with my mom and my dad, and they're both remarried today.
And how does that work with both of them being remarried? Is it good?
I mean, they're friends, you know, to each their own. They live in different states now,
right.
so it's helpful. My dad's in South Carolina, Anderson. My mom's back in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I grew up at Rhema Bible Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a Pentecostal environment, and went to a Christian high school, and then after high school, walked across the street to Oral Roberts University and went to a Christian college. So I've been kind of in the church world for a long time now.
You've been in a really good church world. Because Rhema, was that Kenneth Hagin?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then who took it after him? Junior, the
son? Yeah.
Yeah.
Son did.
Yeah, and then you went to Rhema.
Victory.
Yeah. Victory. Okay.
Where Billy Joe Daugherty and...
oh, were you there under him? Wow, he was something.
Yeah.
And his wife's running that church now, right?
Well, she was, and she handed it down to the son, Paul Daugherty. He was a friend of mine and a kind of mentor for
He was your
years.
mentor?
He was a mentor of mine kind of in high school, early college.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So what's the greatest thing he taught you?
Man, he just knew how to make you feel loved. You know, oftentimes megachurch pastors and their kids can come off a little stuck up possibly, or, you know, very cliquish, but he was really good at breaking down those kind of walls and making everyone that he talked to feel loved and feel valued. And I think that's really important when you lead a large church, that you're able to connect to everyone on every level.
So did he spend a lot of time with you?
Yeah, we went on mission trips together in high school. He was the leader, and then I used to lead worship for, he used to lead a young adults group called 3D, and I used to be a part of the worship team and serve under him while I was in Tulsa. So
how were you when you really got connected with the Lord?
Yeah, I mean, so growing up in the church world, it's easy to kind of just inherit Christianity and to be in it and know God by default. But I would say probably high school, really kind of doing my own searching, having my own experiences, instead of just adopting the faith of my family. Really experienced the presence of the Lord strong, specifically in Dominican Republic. I remember seeing some amazing miracles and feeling the presence of God stronger than I had ever felt. And it was a critical time going into, right before I went into college, kind of getting that foundation set. Because any of the time throughout college, if I was going to be doubting, I would always remember, but that one time in Dominican Republic.
So tell me what you saw. What was the miracle?
And there was so many miracles, but it was Pastor Billy Joe Daugherty's last crusade he did before he passed away in Dominican Republic. So we did a crusade, me and my senior class in high school. We were on a stage to about like 30,000 people. And we all, beforehand, throughout the school year, we learned how to lead worship in Spanish. We did dramas. We told testimonies. So we did crusades at night. During the day, we would go into villages, and we would see miracles and see people come to know the Lord. A couple of memories. I remember in one of the villages, I remember this guy, his foot was kind of, it was blown up like a balloon. It was like fat because he had stepped on a nail and it got so infected, and it was really, really, like, it was really gross. And we had just got done doing a drama, preaching the gospel, and we kind of went off and to see who the Lord was leading us to pray for. And I remember coming with a friend, and we asked if we could pray for his foot. And we started praying for his foot, and literally his foot went from a balloon to like a normal foot.
While you were watching?
While we were praying for it. And I was like, you know, because you often see people who say that I couldn't hear, but I can hear, I had pain, and it doesn't hurt anymore. And so to us, you just have to believe that was true. But for us, like, that was a physical change in the person's body. And I was like, that is insane. Power of God, wow. And then,
that God is real? Did you find yourself thinking,
Yeah.
God is real?
Yeah, because you go off a lot of momentum, inspiration, and faith, just like believing, and then when you finally start seeing some supernatural things happening, it just really kind of confirms a lot of the words coming out of your mouth that are true.
Now, how old were you? 17 or 18?
I think I was 18.
Think about it, Will. People think, oh, well, only probably somebody really old can do miracles.
Right.
Or somebody that's been to Bible college
Yeah.
or been to college or been to seminary, but you were 17 or 18 years old. So what did you have to go on?
What do you mean?
Faith.
Yeah, faith. It was just, we were together. We were just, we all loved, we were innocent, had childlike faith, loved Jesus, exploring a new city across waters, and God was able to use it. And then there was many other miracles, people getting out of wheelchairs.
You saw somebody actually do that? What did that look like?
It was just one of those mind-blowing experiences.
What did they do when they came out of the wheelchair? Were they excited?
Yeah, the guy, I forgot what, he had some sort of disease, but hadn't walked in 8 years. And so he, for the first time, he needed the assistance of his friend, but he hadn't been able to move his legs. And so he was very, very excited and very shocked. And so our report a couple days later was that he was practicing walking after that night. He was getting up and working on it, strengthening himself.
I got healed one time, Will. I had partial deafness in this ear, and God had told me that I was going to have a healing and a deliverance ministry, and it never happened. And I got real frustrated, and I said, God, if I'm really going to do that, I want to see somebody get their sight, and I know they were blind, or be deaf, and I know they could hear, you know, but I know they were deaf. It was me. And I was talking with a guy about what the Lord had been doing in my life, a guy I hadn't seen in a long time, and all of a sudden it's just like something in my eustachian tube from the inside going out, it just kind of went whoosh.
Yeah.
And I could hear. And so I can't doubt me.
Yeah.
I can't question me. I know what it was like before, and I know what it was like after.
Absolutely.
So what did that do for you to keep going into college and going with that in your satchel?
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, with every amazing piece of revelation comes like sometimes hard truth that comes with that, where oftentimes people don't get healed in this world. So, you know, on that trip, we also saw many people who didn't receive healing then and there in that moment.
That's the hard part.
A lot of us chose to believe that possibly they would one day, or possibly they would when they left. And then even seeing our pastor pass away from cancer was really, really hard on a church that would stand and say, have faith, that he wouldn't. And so in the end, walking away from just, it's almost comforting in a sense of just resting in the mystery of God, just knowing that that he is good, that he is loving, that oftentimes people get healed on this earth, and oftentimes they don't. But I walked away believing that true healing comes, I believe, through death, when you meet Christ.
Yeah, because the good life starts.
The good life starts, and you're away from the earth that is full of pain and suffering. And so that is a comforting way to view death. And if people don't experience physical healing on this earth, I believe God will come back to this earth one day and renew it and fully bring those who have passed away and heal those who are suffering on this earth.
Wow, very interesting. Well, now, did you go to Bible college? Is that where you went, or?
No, so I studied business there, business marketing. I was a musician, was starting to lead a lot more worship, and I got advice from my musician friends who were older than me saying, being a musician, you really need to get a business degree because someone who's operating as a singer-songwriter is their own CEO. You need to know how the music industry works. You need to know how to run sales of albums. You just need to have that kind of knowledge because you can use the business knowledge in any platform, in any direction you decide to go. Even if music didn't work out, you still have a business degree where that can open up doors for you to do other things. And so that was I decided to do that, and I loved making that decision. The most fun part of that degree was studying marketing. It's kind of creative. We would often like come up with fun slogans or do presentations, make graphics, and so that was fueling my right brain, my creative side within a business.
So what do you
platform.
think God's destiny has been for your life so far? Is it songwriting?
I would say songwriting has been a huge, huge part of that. I remember I was at a young age. When I first started getting into worship music, I saw Hillsong United on their Look to You tour. And I remember like getting really inspired and saying, I really want to do what they're doing. I want to write songs for the church, songs that would get people like me interested in singing.
Now, what does that mean? Elaborate on that.
I don't know, like, growing up as a young kid, you kind of, there's something, for some reason, you have this idea that church music is boring, like, based off of, if you kind of grew up in a traditional church or saw on TV what church they often present, like Catholics, liturgies and stuff. And I think that's still beautiful today, but often for kids, it's not as entertaining. So I didn't think worship could be cool and then I thought Hillsong was like the rock worship. So I thought it was very cool, and I wanted to, do what they did. And so at an early age, I started songwriting and joining bands, and I've been pursuing that ever since. And I even had people prophesy saying that you would do that. And so I've carried that, and I've continued to write songs. And I have a band now that I still write and play with, and it's just been a fun journey. But I would say you had asked about destiny. I would say I've been in the church since the womb, and I've been through so many ministry experiences. Went to a Christian college. I'm in seminary now. I've worked for a few churches. I really think the Lord is leading me down the path of ministry for life.
Now, by ministry, do you mean with music ministry, or?
Music, or I'm studying theology, and I really love writing. I've enjoyed teaching a little bit. So I'm interested in exploring options outside of songwriting, but songwriting is like one of my number one passions. And
are you one of those kind of people that can get an idea for a song and you have to grab a napkin or a piece of paper?
Yeah.
Because it's coming fast
Totally.
and you got to write it down?
Totally. Even in the 21st century, I pull out the iPhone, I have the voice memos, and I'll sing a little melody into my phone.
And so you won't forget it?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you ever get them in the middle of the night?
Well, sometimes. Well, I don't wake up from dreams and get melodies like Josh Groban or anything, but I often can't sleep at night, so a lot of my inspiration does come after my wife and the kids have gone to bed, and I'm sitting out in the living room just kind of well, what do I do now? And so sometimes I'll get, I still have a lot of energy, so I'll put it to writing or working on a song.
So what's your favorite area in writing? Do you have a favorite area?
I'm really big on writing worship music that hits many different expressions of worship. I think oftentimes you can buy a worship album and every single song is a loud anthem. And I think there's lots of songs that can be more reflective, meditative, like listening prayer, and then you have your anthems and you have your, so I really like to explore different types of worship songs, because I think a worship song doesn't mean just a corporate song that you can sing in church. I think any piece of art that is being true to the human soul, being true to yourself, being a true expression to the Lord is worship.
What's the greatest compliment you've gotten? When people have listened to your music, what do they usually say about it?
Oftentimes they said it's fresh, and that it doesn't sound like everything else. And yet it's still very worshipful. And that's exactly what my goal was. Being someone who's been in the music industry and who has watched it for years, oftentimes I think the music that's put out just sounds the same. Or like,
it does.
again, or every song is an anthem. And so I've always been someone who's been really inspired to write worship music that's creative and different, that doesn't sound like everything else, but still connects to people. Like, so people like Gungor or John Mark McMillan or Phil Wickham, they do a really good job at, or the Brilliants, they do a really good job at like breaking out of what a traditional like Christian worship song should be.
Why do you think so many Christian songs sound alike? I mean, maybe the words are different, the tune's different, but you have the feeling they all are like canned or something. Why is that?
Well, if you look at the history of Christian music, a lot of the #1 songs that have sold and have made people lots of money, and not just for money, but also have just really impacted the church, have been songs that have become anthems for those congregations. They have a similar feel, they have a similar writing style, they have a similar sound. And so I think with a lot of new bands coming up, or maybe a specific band that became well known off of a specific style, they want to keep going that direction. They want to guarantee that people will buy their album and still want to listen to it.
Yeah, because people expect them to be a certain way, don't they?
If they do something completely different, freaks
maybe
people out.
Maybe they won't like it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they
so
don't.
It's definitely, and it has proven to be a safe, been a safe decision to make, or generally makes sales where people will still really like it and listen to the radio. They're expecting a specific style. But there's definitely people like me and a lot of other millennials who are just wanting to break out of that mold and just really want something more authentic and something that's just out of the box. And sadly, oftentimes, and this is no offense to anybody, but like an average listener isn't always wanting to look for the experimental or the creative when they're listening. So there's a market for it. There's many people who are wanting it, but not everyone is either.
Well, what kind of challenges have you personally encountered in doing this career of songwriting?
Yeah, I think because I have chosen to kind of go that route with writing music and recording it that way. It doesn't sell as fast, and even music in general isn't selling as much anymore as it used to, because the streaming has become so huge with online platforms where you can just pay $10 a month and listen to all the music you want.
Yeah, I just heard Garth Brooks just went streaming on a lot of things. So
because of that, music sales like on the Apple or I don't know if, iTunes platform, or music isn't selling like it used to. So because of that, even independent bands like us aren't selling as much as we used to either.
So what do you do about that?
You just have to find creative ways to get people to listen or to get people to purchase your music. There's many people that do like Kickstarters, they do like crowdfunding, they play everywhere. I think for us, as a band, we're not mainstream, so oftentimes if we've made cold calls with churches, they ask what label are you with? They're like, we're not with a label, and so that often that kind of can
puts
be a
people
block.
off. It's off-putting, isn't it?
It can, but we have the Lord's been faithful, and we have gotten many opportunities. Our band has, but it's just it's not as many as we would want, but. I have a family, I have 2 kids, the rest of my band, they have full-time jobs. Like, we don't actually have the time right now to be going like crazy touring. So I think within creating and writing music, that's the #1 importance to us.
For you?
Yeah.
And for your band? Does your band feel the same way?
Yeah, we just want to create honestly. We want to be authentic in the music we make. And I don't think we're trying to make thousands of dollars. I think we just want to make authentic worship for the Lord. And we'll find creative ways to do that. I believe we'll be able to continue making music as the industry expands, as technology expands. There's more and
there
more
may be something brand new that nobody's even thought of yet.
Totally.
That's going to happen.
Totally. So, but it's been fun, and so that's #1 importance to me. I rather stay true to my art instead of selling out to a mainstream sound.
I think that's really good. Now, do you have somebody in your band that writes with you, or do you do all the writing?
Yeah, so it's been developing. Our band has been progressing and developing over time. Initially I started it and with a lot of songs, but our bands the songs, the way they were recorded couldn't have been what they were without the band. Like we wrote the arrangements together, the guitar pieces, the piano pieces. And moving forward, as we continue writing songs, we're going to be doing a lot more collaborative writing.
With each other.
With each other, yeah. But getting it off the ground, I had to have something to start with.
To present to them, so that they would come with you. How'd you find these people?
So we lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for 3 years before we moved here to New York City. And we got really connected and close to the music and worship community of the city. And through that, I made some close friends who were like some of the best musicians I've ever played with. And so I got this idea for the band. The band name is Doxa Theo. I got it because I was studying Greek at seminary, and it means glory to God in the literal translation. And I wanted to do something that was a little bit more liturgical with old Christian language, but with progressive sounds. And so the right people popped into my head when I was planning it, and we got together and started putting the songs together, and we planned a record out in Nashville with one of my good friends, David Leonard. And it's just been it's been 2 years since we started that, but it's just been one day at a time, one person finding it, one opportunity to play.
What kind of wisdom, if somebody is watching this show and they're thinking, I want to do that, I understand what he's saying totally, I want to stay true to my art, I'm not about making the big bucks, I want to do what's in my heart to do. What kind of advice would you give that person? One, to get started, and two, if they're down the road, maybe they're struggling a little bit. What would you say?
Yeah, I would say to make the most impactful and authentic art, you have to be the most authentic you. And you can only truly find that through the Lord and through coming to Him. Because often when we grow up, we put on masks and we put on all these defense mechanisms to try to fit in with society and to try to be like everybody else so we can be accepted. And oftentimes we put up so many layers and so many masks that we don't actually have the true self revealed. I think one of my favorite authors, Thomas Merton, calls this the shadow self, where you're being false versions of ourselves. And I think when we can start removing the mask and removing the layers, then we can be true to who we are within any art that we make. And that is the art that people want to listen to. And the more time we spend meditating with the Lord, searching who are we really in Him, that's the first step. And then with the music.
Wait, before you go to the next thing, I want to tell you something that somebody said to me one time. Boy, it helped so much. He said, Betty, when you're the most completely natural, God will be the most supernatural through you. And people think, I've got to act this way, I've got to talk this way, I've got to say these things. It's not true. The more you're just yourself, the more God is just Himself. Do you agree with that?
100%. 100%.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes it easy.
Often people put on a show for people, or like they're kind of performing instead of just being real, being authentic, and I think that's critical.
Okay, so now go ahead, and what kind of advice would you give someone that's going down the road and struggling with some of the things you talked about, like not getting the venues or having a family, and how do I do all of this? What would you advise somebody?
Well, I mean, some people are very independent and can be the one-man show and are very talented and go for it. But I found for myself, and I think this could be true for many others, that you need a team, you need a community, you need a group of people that you can do it together with, where you're not alone, where you're not the only one knocking on the doors, you're not the only one writing the music, you're not the only one fighting for it. Initially, if it's your baby, you will be probably the one that bleeds the most, but having a crew, like close friends that you can do it with, also, I believe, makes the art even more authentic and impactful, because it's coming from a place of love and community as you're doing it, and it's not a one-man show and just a one perspective. And I think that's helpful, especially within writing songs about faith and spirituality. Like, many perspectives are very important.
You know, you seem, in this conversation, you seem to be strong in your faith and strong in your walk, even though you said you've had times that you struggled. Have you ever been tempted to just go back in the world and do your music there? or have you been able to just stay right where you are?
Well, I mean, I was tempted to go back into the world to make music. I do think there is, to make a comment off of that idea, I think there is too much separation between Christian worship music and worship in the world. I think that worship or Christian artists should bring their music more into the world in places where they wouldn't expect it to be heard. Some of my favorite artists have stopped playing in churches and have started opening venues, with or going to pubs and just creating atmospheres of worship in those environments. And I think that's really, really beautiful. And for me, so it's like, maybe the question is like, could I lay down writing Christian music and just write love songs? Like, I've honestly tried to write love songs before. I'm just not very good at it. I find myself, I end up writing about the Lord.
Again?
Yeah,
You think I'm going to try this and you end up back with the Lord?
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, I think it's...
Oh, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's, again, what are you supposed to do? What kind of art are you supposed to make? I think if you are, called, or like you are most authentic when you're writing love songs, then I think you're being the most you, the true you, and I think that's
right. And it
that's
can be what
glorifying
God
to the Lord.
wants you to do,
Yeah,
right?
that's more glorifying the Lord than like trying to write a worship song because you have to. I don't think you have to.
So just being yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're watching this show, that you have heard things that maybe you've been encouraged by. Maybe you're a person who wants to write songs. Maybe you've had people putting you down for it. In fact, I think there's someone watching the show right now that actually you've been writing songs since you were a little child. And people said, what a waste for your life. But you've just heard a young man say it hasn't been a waste at all. It's been very fulfilling. And you've even heard him say, I just love to write songs about God. So that's a great thing for you to think about doing. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. It wasn't an accident that you turned on the TV tonight. I hope you received some wisdom and that you have a great rest of the night, whether you are going to sleep or you're going to work. I'll see you next time. Bye.